Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. One factor that is cause of concern as well as amazement is that India is possibly the only country in the world where there is no uniform civil code, where the population of India is governed by one constitution supposedly, but still their personal laws, customary laws, religious laws, and so on hold sway and are given the due regard by the courts as well as by the government. And so it was refreshing when the Chief Justice of India the other day stated that Goa is the only state in India which has a uniform civil code. And he encouraged intellectuals who indulge in table talk without any meaning to visit the place to learn more about it. The CGI said that Goa has what was required to be done by the Constitution. They had envisaged the Constitution very clearly in Article 44 that there shall be a uniform civil code governing all sections of society. But except from Goa, there's no other state. None of the 29 states, none of the union territories has one law applicable to marriage, to hereditary rules, or to the common day life. There are rules for the Hindu, there are rules for the Sikhs, there are rules for the Christian, there are rules for the Muslim. And as a matter of fact, in September 2019, the Supreme Court had described Goa also as a shining example with a uniform civil code and observed that the Constitution had hoped and expected a uniform civil code for India. Can you believe 7 decades have passed since 7 decades? People's life expectancy, one complete generation gone. And till today, Article 44 in the Part 4 of the Constitution dealing with the directive policies has not been implemented. As a matter of fact, this shows carelessness, neglect of the government, whichever government it may be. And a uniform civil code is a law for the entire country applicable to all religious communities in their personal matters such as marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption. And as I said, Article 44 is one of the directive principles of state policy. These are defined in Article 37. They cannot be enforced by the courts, but the principles are fundamental in governance. Now, fundamental rights are enforceable in a court of law. But Article 44 uses the state shall endeavor. Other articles in the directive principles use the word in particular strive. In one case, in other directive principle it says, shall in particular direct its policy. In still another case, it says, shall be the obligation of the state. But here, article states, the state shall endeavor by suitable legislation. Why? Why this difference? Does it mean that even at the time the Constitution was formed, the framers were in two minds? And yes, they were. There's no doubt that the fundamental rights are more important than the directive principles are. And At the same time, you cannot ignore that the directive principles are one of the fundamentals of the Constitution. To give absolute primacy to fundamental rights over the directive principles is disturbing the harmony of the Constitution, and as such, the governments of Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Morarji Desai, Charan Singh, I.K. Gujral, V.P. Singh, Dave Gowda, Chandrasekhar, Atal Bihari, Narasimha Rao, Rajiv Gandhi, and even Modi, they have failed. They have failed in the discharge of their constitutional obligation. And 1976, I remember, Article 35C was inserted in 42nd Amendment, which lays down that if a law is made to implement any directive principles, it will not be challengeable in a court of law. And still, despite that constitutional amendment, which was made by Mrs. Gandhi, India doesn't have uniform court in civil matters. Now, look at France, the largest Muslim population, but still they don't have that law separately, and they is one law, USA, very multicultural, but one civil law, Canada. Then why not India? The Indian law do follow uniform code in all civil matters. Contract Act, Civil Procedure Code, Sale of Goods Code, Transfer of Property Act, Partnership Act, Evidence Act. Hundreds of amendments have been made. But for the civil code, it's not there. Amazingly, the framers of the Constitution had a civil code in mind, and they should have given exclusive jurisdiction to the parliament in respect of the personal laws. Last year, I was amazed that the Law Commission said that is not desirable. Why? Why cannot one civil law be applicable to all the members of the society inhabiting India? Even all the Hindus of the country are not governed by one law. Are you aware? When most of the people say that there is a different law for Muslims and Christians and minorities, they forget that even the Hindus in India are not governed by one law, nor the Muslims, nor the Christians. So not only this, but the legal traditions and the Portuguese traditions and the French traditions are still operating in Goa, Daman, Diu, Pondicherry. It's amazing. In Jammu and Kashmir, until August 5, 2019, local Hindu law statutes differed from the central enactment. The Sharia Act of 1937 was extended to Jammu and Kashmir, but now it has been repealed. So Muslims in Kashmir are thus governed by customary law, not by the Muslim law. And that customary law of Kashmir is opposed by the Muslim personal law in the rest of the country. And that law is in fact closer to the Hindu law. So if the Muslims can be governed by a law closer to Hindu law in Kashmir, why not in other states? Even on the registration of marriage among Muslims, laws differ. It was compulsory in Jammu and Kashmir by 1981 Act and is optional in West Bengal, Bihar under 1876 Act, in Assam and Odisha. So in Northeast, there are more than 200 tribes with their own customary laws. And the Constitution protects those rights, and the civil laws don't apply there. Similar protections are enjoyed by Meghalaya and Mizoram. Even reformed Hindu law, in spite of codification, is not uniform. It protects customary practices. Article 25 lays down individuals' fundamental right to religion. Yes. But do the right to the religion supersede the Constitution of India? The Article 29 defines the right to conserve distinctive cultures, yes. But does culture mean that you can indulge in polygamy, bigamy, polyandry? No. As a matter of fact, individual freedom of religion in Article 25 is subject to public order, health, morality. So if the fundamental right is subject to certain conditions, why not the customary laws? In the Constituent Assembly, there was a division, if you remember, and it was decided by a majority of 5 to 4. 4 people were opposing it. They were saying that it should not even be the director principles. But Sardar Patel held the provisions that this must be implemented, and the uniform civil code was made less important than the freedom of religion. This was a fault of Vallabhbhai Patel, as a matter of fact. Patel, had he joined Nehru at that time, then the uniform civil code would have been enacted in the constitution itself and would have been at par with the fundamental rights. But Sardar Patel and other members said no, there should be different laws. And the Muslim members of the Constituent Assembly were really against the civil law. Muhammad Ismail, 3 times he tried to get Muslim personal law exempted from Article 44. And it was very clear that a secular state should not interfere in the personal law of the people. Amazing. There was B. Poker who said that he had received representation against common law from various organizations and even Hindu organizations. Hussain Imam questioned the need of the uniformity of personal laws. In diverse countries like India, and I shown you diverse countries like China, like USA, like Canada, like England, they are the uniform laws. And Dr. Ambedkar then said that no government can use its provisions in a way that would force the Muslims to revolt. But Aladi Krishnaswamy, who was in favor of uniform civil code, he very clearly said that if you want to preserve the unity of the country, you must have one law. So how did the debate on common law, a common code for Hindus play out? In June 1948, Rajendra Prasad, President of Constituent Assembly, warned Jawaharlal Nehru to introduce basic changes in personal laws. That was formulated to impose progressive ideas on a microscopic minority. The Hindu court bill was opposed by Rajendra Prasad, Sardar Patel, Patabhai Starmaiya, Iyengar, Malviya, and Kailashnath Khatri. And when the debate on the Hindu court bill took place in December 49, 23 out of 28 speakers opposed it. So they did not even want a uniform civil code for the Hindus only. 23 out of 28 speakers said it, and on September 15, 1951, Rajendra Prasad threatened to use his power as president to send the bill back to the parliament. And Nehru agreed to divide that bill into 3 separate acts that diluted the several provisions. Now the question arises, in the absence of a uniform civil code, what happens? A, civil code determines an individual obligation to the society. A family is a microscopic aspect of a country. If in one family, a child has 4 mothers, there'll be concentration in the neighbor's family. and the civil discord would result. Secondly, there would be a feeling of jealousy and even derision. In some cases, the people will deride the family having different options. Now, the customs are not law. Let's be very clear. The government has to understand that the customs, conventions, and the traditions are not laws. Laws govern basically the concept of marriage. Now, for example, in Canada you are living or in USA, bigamy is a crime, right? And the Muslims who say that according to their religious laws, they can marry 4 times, is not admitted. So civil law only says don't have that. Then inheritance. In Muslim personal law, the daughter gets half of what his son gets. While in the Hindu marriage, the daughter gets equal inheritance. So in fact, by having or by not having uniform civil code, you are violating the right of equality under fundamental rights. The uniform civil code would ensure adherence to the fundamental rights as for the rights of the citizens, individual citizens, belonging to diverse religions are concerned. Imagine them in any province, the imam is given a salary by the government. Who pays the salary? The government. Who for the government? The voters, the citizens. Now, why should a Hindu or a Sikh taxpayer fund the salary of an imam if he is not when if the state is not giving the salary to a temple priest or to a Sikh priest? The Granth. So again, there is a sense of discrimination, and that violates the civil law. The Hindus have church temples, and they are most Sabrimala and others. They are governed with the government. Why? As a matter of fact, there is a plethora of cases and situations which arise and which are opposed to the Constitution of India, which is violative of the Constitution. Now, can it be implemented? Yes, it can be. Why not? Even the Supreme Court has said that there is a time now to do it, and yet we are not doing it. The only reason the government have not done it is to curry favors with some sections of society. Now, Sikhs were earlier not married. The Nandkaraj Act was passed because the Hindu system was not acceptable to Sikhs, and the Sikhs could not get their marriage registered under marriage. Now, if you say that marriage is a union of two people and all marriages are to be registered, howsoever they are performed, that's it. Whether they are performed by going around a fire or going around Granth Sahib or signing the Nikah Nama or by the priest in the church or just two people coming together and saying, okay, we are marrying each other, period. They go to court of law, get them registered, and come back. So civil law covers all marriages, and that would happen. So you don't have to deal with each marriage of each community in a different manner. As I said, there are 200 tribes in Northeast. There are 18 tribes in the Madhya Pradesh and Bastar area. There are 20 tribes in Chota Nagpur area. You cannot codify all of them. So one civil law will codify all things that pertain to the civil nature. Now again, I'm saying civil. That would be marriage, adoption, inheritance, and the allied factors. So basically what affect the family, and why should one family not have the same privileges or same restrictions as a neighbor has? It's incumbent on the government, now especially when the Supreme Court has given its nod twice, do it. And if the government still doesn't do it, then something is rotten in the state of Denmark. Let's be very clear. Something stinks. And it is only political opportunism that is restraining the government. People had high hopes that Modi would do it. But the question is, why did Atal not do it? Why did Narasimha Rao not do it? Indira Gandhi started doing it, as I told you, in 1976 when the amendment was made. And then purities like Morarji Desai and others started opposing her. And that 76 venture was not completed. The need is to ensure that what is written in Article 44, the state shall endeavor, and now the time has come that state should endeavor, discharge its constitutional obligation, and set the matters right, the matters which have been neglected for the last 7 decades. It's high time that India becomes a civil society rather than a mass of disparate civil societies. There's a need to have at least a civilized veneer, and that would possibly integrate the nation in a better way and make the citizens feel they are Indians in the real sense of term and not an assemblage of different nationalities. The time is right to do it. Further delay would be a disaster. Thank you.